Hello students, today we will see the second part of nationalism in Europe. In this, first today we are going to start with the French Revolution. Last year, that is in 9th standard, you have studied about the French Revolution. So again, I will not talk about it. Okay, so you know many things about it already. So as our lesson starts with the French Revolution, not in details, but in brief, I will tell you few things about the French Revolution. Okay. So actually, French Revolution took place in 3-4 phases. Okay, so first of all, the king was abdicated. Okay, uh, it was 1789. Okay, then after that, there was a constitutional monarchy. Okay, then third thing, there was a reign of terror. That is, a Jacobin government was established. Okay, then after that, fourth step was about directory rule. Okay, means if the power is held by a single person, then he misuses it, isn't it? So it's necessary that the power should be divided. It should not be concentrated in one hands. That's why the power was divided among directory. There were 5 members, you know that. And after that, fifth step is of Napoleon. Okay, so Napoleon fought many battles from 1805 to 1815. These 10 years, they were completely surrounded by the Napoleon. Throughout the Europe, the wars are going on. The generals, the commanders of Napoleon and himself, they are marching the country, Spain, then Austria, then Prussia, then Russia, Britain, Netherlands, okay, Italy. All these countries, they are being invaded by the Napoleon. So these, and to stop Napoleon, it was very next to impossible, because the military of Napoleon was very disciplined, and at that time other countries, they were still having monarchy, but Napoleon, he was a dictator, military dictator. So he knew very well the discipline of military, and he was himself leading the military. So that's why it was very difficult for the Europe to control him. So 6 times, do 6 times different countries, they made the coalition to defeat Napoleon. And finally, in 1815, in the Battle of Waterloo, he was defeated finally. Actually, before that, in 1813 or 14, the Leipzig Battle of Leipzig took place. In that battle also Napoleon was defeated, but he was arrested, and after that he was sent to uh, the island. I'm not getting its name now. The island near Italy. But after that he comes to know that the popular support for Napoleon is growing in France. So after 100 days he comes back to France and again assist the power, and again after that he marches towards the Waterloo, and in Waterloo he was completely defeated by the sixth coalition of different countries. And which countries were there in sixth coalition? That is Britain, then Russia, Prussia, Austria. Okay, these countries were there, all come together and they defeated Napoleon in 1815. Okay, so now this is the brief idea about French Revolution and few years after French Revolution. Now here we will talk about the changes which took place in France after French Revolution. Okay, first, ideas of la patrie and la citoyenneté was emphasized. Earlier, aristocrats, clergy, nobility, they were having special titles. But henceforward, all will be the citizens of France. No one will be superior, no one will be inferior. La citoyenne means citizens of France. Second, new French tricolor flag on the place of royal flag. Okay. At that time, there was a specific flag of Bourbon dynasty. Okay. But when the Bourbon dynasty was abdicated, after that, a new tricolor flag which depicted the Republic of France. Okay, that was introduced. Then third is Estate General, that is Parliament of France. It was converted into National Assembly. Okay. Then new hymns were composed. Earlier, all the hymns, all the songs, they were just written about the monarch, about the king. But the soldiers, those who martyred for their country, they were not commemorated. So new songs were constructed. Then new oaths and martyrs, they were commemorated, okay, in the name of the nation. Then centralized administrative system took place. See, actually, when the monarchies were going on in Russia, in Europe, so in that condition, what is going on in Europe? As there are empires, as there are monarchies, as there are kingdoms, so in that kingdom, the states, for our understanding, we will say the states, but actually, state, this concept was not there at that time. Okay, so we will say uh, the part of that country. Okay, so there were different administrative system. The person who is in charge there, as per his mind, he will decide the rules and regulations for ruling that specific territory. Okay, so to avoid this, after French Revolution, a centralized administrative system was introduced. Then uniform laws for all citizens within its territory. All are equal in front of the law. Nobody is exception for this. Not the king, nor the clergy, nobility, nobody. Everybody is equal in front of the law. Uniform law. The uniform system of weights and measures was adopted. Why they are saying so? Because uh, if you see in Europe at that time, there were small duchies, small kingdoms. Okay, and when Napoleon invades other countries and his territory is expanding, so in such a big territory, just imagine when a person travels from one place to another place. So the measurement which is prevalent in France may not be same in Spain, may not be same in Portugal, may not be same in Duchy of Warsaw, isn't it? So all these measurements and weighing system, weights, they were uniform, they were made uniform. Then in France, France was made national language and dialects, local languages, folk languages, it was just discouraged. And all these ideas which were implemented in France after the French Revolution, all these ideas, they were being carried by the army of the Napoleon. Because, see, you know very well, when the army goes anywhere to fight, it's not like that they are fighting throughout the day. 24 hours they are not fighting, isn't it? For specific time they will take the rest. And wherever they take the rest, there will be local people. Okay, so in those local people, these ideas will be spread. This is the first thing. Second thing, when they are fighting with the military, and if the king or the monarch he surrenders, then that monarch's army, that monarch's military, they will join Napoleon's military and they will fight from the side of Napoleon, isn't it? So just imagine that the army of France and army of Spain, they both are fighting from same side, isn't it? So there will be a coordination, there will be a communication between French soldier and Spanish soldiers. So these ideas, all these ideas being transferred by the Napoleon army to these armies. Okay, and that's why this idea of nationalism, this idea of republic, this idea of democracy is being spread throughout the Europe by the army of Napoleon. Am I clear? Yes. So I hope uh, till here I am very clear to you. So in this way, these changes are being conducted in France. Now, Uh, here is a one almanac designed by the journalist Andreas Robman in 1798. This is the fort. Actually, this is the Bastille fort, and it is being stormed by the revolutionaries. Okay, and next to it, similar fortress mean to represent the bastion of despotic rule. Okay, so it is just a symbol which shows that, means this Bastille Fort, it shows that there was a despotic, aristocratic, dictatorial rule. Okay, accompanying the illustration is the slogan. Actually, that slogan is not clear in the picture, but I will read it for you. Here it is given: the people must seize their own freedom. That is written in Second Almanac. Rebmann lived in the city of Mainz and was a member of German Jacobin Club. Okay. Now, see, when Napoleon is invading the countries and when he is expanding his territory, so when he goes there after victory, he has to settle the administration, isn't it? Who will rule here? Who will take care of the people? What will be the administrative system? All these things must be administered. It must be set up. All these institutions must be set up if you want long-term ruling. So, whenever Napoleon invades any country, he brings his code, Napoleonic code in that country, 1804. So from France, he starts in 1804, and this is called Napoleonic code, or it is also called Civil Code of 1804. So what it is, let's say. First, he says that the privileges will not be given on the basis of the birth. Nobody will born henceforward with silver spoon in the mouth. Okay, if you are a what we can say, meritorious person, if you have performed meritoriously, if you have performed your skill, if you are excelled in your abilities, then only you will get the privileges, not on the basis of your birth. Second, all are equal in front of the law. Then, administrative divisions simplified in the Dutch Republic, Switzerland, Italy, and Germany. All these were conquered by the Napoleon. Okay, so all these administrative divisions were simplified. There were earlier it was so much complex. Then feudal system was abolished. See, what is a feudal system? In feudal system, in feudalism, means there is a king, and below the king there will be, in our Marathi we will say Watandar, Jagirdar, isn't it? They will be there, and they will be from the royal family only. Means France, it is just a big country, very big country, isn't it? So only one person can't administer the country. So he must divide his power. So earlier, all these powers, all these duchies, all these kingdoms were given to the royal family only. But in the age of Napoleon, he abolished the feudal system, and only the person who is capable enough to handle such a big territory, it was given to him. Okay, so that is feudal system. Then peasants were freed from serfdom. Earlier, the peasants, they were forced to work in the farm, and whatever profit they will get, it will be handed over to the king. It will be the name of the king. Okay, so this was a serfdom. So it was abolished, and manorial dues means two taxes you have to give. One tax is to the king, and second tax is to the landlords, or we can say the nobility except the king. Two dues, two, what we can say, taxes you have to give. So when the Napoleon comes, in Napoleonic code, there was only one tax which will be given to the state directly, means directly to the king or to the dictator. Okay, then the guild restrictions were removed to the trade freely. Earlier, again, uh, if anybody wants to do the trade, if he wants to go across his country, then he had to take the permission. There were so many procedures which he had to follow, so it was very difficult for any merchant to cross his country. So these guild restrictions, they were removed to trade freely. Okay, country to country you can go and you can trade. Then transport and communication systems, they were improved, and common national currency. Okay, there were earlier kingdom to kingdom, empire to empire, there were different currencies. So in the reign of Napoleon, he just made one uniform currency. So from all these changes, you will come to know one thing, and that is Napoleon was a very modern person. All these changes, you can compare all these changes with today's world. Okay, so today you know very well, privileges are not given on the birth, all are equal in front of the law, administrative system is very simple. Today there is no feudalism. Okay, peasants are not living in serfdom, isn't it? There are no restriction for your trade, easily you can go to other country and trade, isn't it? Today transport and communication system is improved. Okay, and common national currency throughout India, there is only one currency, isn't it? Though there are 29 states. So from this you will understand that Hitler, sorry, sorry, Napoleon was considered as a harbinger for many countries. Many countries thought that the uh, Napoleon is bringing freedom to our country, a true liberty to our country. Okay, so countries to countries, there was different response to the Napoleonic Code. And what was that response? Let's talk about it. First, if you talk about Holland and Switzerland, so in certain cities like Brussels, Mainz, Milan, and Warsaw, the French armies were welcomed as harbingers of liberty. All in these countries, huh? Holland, Switzerland, Brussels, Mainz, Milan, Warsaw. Okay, they were welcomed in these countries because these all countries, they were dominated by other countries. For example, let's take the example of Warsaw. It was controlled by Russia. Okay, so all these countries, they are so much enthusiastic to welcome the military and the army of Napoleon. Okay, then it became clear that the new administrative arrangement did not go hand in hand with political freedom. Gradually, the people understood one thing. See, as you know, in any government, there are two pillars, three pillars actually, but at that time there were two, administrative system and political system. So, all these changes are there, these changes were there. Okay, these rights you will get, but political rights people didn't have, means they can't choose their leader will be dictator, Napoleon will be dictator. Okay, that freedom was not given to the people. So gradually people understood this, that the political freedom they are not getting, it is only administrative freedom. Then again, uh, increased taxation, censorship, forced conscription into the French armies required to conquer the rest of Europe all seem to outweigh the advantage of the administrative changes. Okay, because in Napoleonic rule, as he was invading the countries and telling them that I am your Masiha, okay, and I am going to relieve you from the clutches of these monarchs. So at first sight, people were very happy. But when the taxes were levied highly upon the people, then there was a censorship. Censorship means whatever you will write, it must not be against Napoleon. Okay, so such kind of censorship. Then forced conscription. Conscription means whenever the Napoleon invades any country, he recruit even farmers in his army. Okay, so forced conscription, that was one problem for the nation. And because of all these things are involved in the French army, the people gradually were fed up of the military or the military discipline of the Napoleon. Okay, and all the advantages which were given by the Napoleon to the people, they were just lagging behind. They were not as par with the expectation of the people, and that's why there was a growing unrest against Napoleon also. So after this, Napoleon, to stop Napoleon, what is exactly done, that we will see in our next part. Till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day.